And now, I'd like to hear from a long-term academic colleague and personal friend of Don, Chuck Patti. Chuck, who are you? Where are you? What's your Don story?
Good. Hi, Jim, and thanks for the opportunity. Um, you know, uh, I was thinking about what to say about Don, and then I was thinking of the challenge of what do you say about somebody that you've known for about 45 years in just a couple of minutes. A tough task, but I'm just delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you and others who may view this about my longtime friend and colleague, Don. Um, I, I'll tell you a little bit about how I met him and some of the things that we did together professionally, just so everybody understands the context of the relationship. And then I'll make some comments at a more personal level about Don and my relationship with him. As I said, we've met probably 45 years ago, something like that. Don was a PhD student at Michigan State, while I was a PhD student at Illinois. And we came together at a conference, probably the American Academy of Advertising. We met there and immediately kind of hit it off because we had a common background. We had both worked in the advertising industry for a number of years. Both had a strong interest in marketing communications, which of course Don eventually took to a discipline area of IMC. And we approached academic life from industry background. So we were certainly interested in theory and in research, but we were interested in how theory applied to solving industry problems. So we hit it off instantly and started working together on a number of things. So over that 45 years, myself, just like a lot of other people, wrote a lot of articles with Don. We collaborated on books. We went to countless conferences and were on programs together in the United States and Europe and Japan and China and Australia. We taught together. Don invited me to Northwestern as a visiting professor. I invited him to the University of Denver and invited him also to Queensland University of Technology in Australia, where Don continued to come for several years as a visiting professor. So he taught there. We worked with PhD students together. We worked on academic and trade journals. We just did a lot of things professionally together. And I know Don has had strong professional relationships with a lot of people, and that just speaks volumes to his abilities to go across a lot of different personalities and work styles and work successfully with him. And I think that's one of the great characteristics of Don. Now, in this professional relationship, there's a lot, as I said, a lot of activities, but Don's characteristics about those were that he was smart, intellectual in a way, but always saw the applied aspects of whatever we were working on. He certainly didn't shy away from controversy in his research and in his teaching. In fact, the whole area during the entire time that Don was working on it was controversial. And there were many dimensions of that, and Don certainly never shied away from that. And that takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And he was generous, of course, with his time professionally. Spent a lot of time with PhD students, including my wife did a PhD in marketing at QUT in Australia, and Don was of help to her in giving her advice about the project and what she could do with it and how she could do with it. So, I mean, Don was helpful, in many different ways. I found as a friend, we talk a little bit about that, Don was always supportive of the ideas that I had. There was a lot of mutual respect between Don and myself. We had a lot of good times together at the conferences. And certainly when Don and Heidi would come to Brisbane, Australia, as a visiting professor, he would typically stay a couple of weeks and we'd had a lot of great dinners that were fantastic on a social level as well as a professional level. And Don, one of the characteristics of Don, and he inherited apparently the same model of working as I did, and that is he was not shy, was not reluctant to do things for no fee. I mean, whether you were asking Don to work with a PhD student or to be a guest speaker, help with a consulting client, whatever it may be, the first question out of his mouth was never, how much is this going to pay? Now, I mention this because there are a lot of people that start with that question. They're hesitant to do anything unless they know how much they're going to get it paid. So Don and I went to the school of do things for nothing, and you'll feel good about it. And he certainly did. He did a tremendous number of things for no fee, and that's much to Don's credit. I mean, Don's legacy is many aspects, I think, of Don's legacy, but on a professional level, I think Don's legacy is certainly about the development of IMC. Everybody associates IMC and Don as the father, really, of IMC. That's certainly a massive part of Don's legacy. He was immensely prolific, as we all know. You just look at his resume and you can see dozens and dozens of articles and books and conference presentations and whatever. It's hard to imagine anybody being more productive than Don, and in a meaningful way. It's a model for somebody to look at it when somebody says, well, I'm working on a book and it's 5 years later and nothing has happened. Or I have an idea for an article and you talk to them 5 years later and yeah, I'm still thinking about it. By that time, Don has got, 15 other articles written. So, I mean, he was an inspiration on that level and really the model. I think the other aspect I think about Don in terms of legacy is that Don personified what I view as an ideal professor, and that is somebody that is excellent at teaching and cared about students, was fantastic at research and publication. And the third piece of generally being usually of being a professor is service. Service to your institution, service to your discipline, service to the business community. And Don really did all of those things and did them all very well. You just don't find that in very many academics. You find somebody who might be good at teaching and can't do research or doesn't do research, or or the other way around. Don did all of those things, and so he's really, his career, when I look back on it, and I think almost anybody else who looks back on it, would be the model to follow. It would be what to aspire to if you're entering this profession. And I really view that as Don's professional legacy. And I guess the final part about it would be his spirit of service, of helping other people. Now, I will miss Don, of course, professionally and personally, and I just am so thankful for having had the opportunity to work with him and to know him. And I'm sure everybody else who's done these video pieces with you, Jim, about Don feels exactly the same way. They're going to miss him, but we all take some satisfaction in knowing that Don's legacy and Don himself will live on in so many other people, hundreds of students and PhD students, undergraduates, colleagues all over the world. And that is huge, and it's more than any of us can hope for in our lifetime.
Chuck, thank you. That's just great. Let me just play. I thought I knew this man, and one of the great educations that's come to me during the course of all these discussions is I realized how many different aspects of him there were. Others have talked about still on the inside, he was an Okie, but of course you highlight he was global, and he was a practitioner, and he was a professor, and he was a scholar, and he was a researcher. and he was an author, and he was an academic, and he was a mentor, and he was a friend. Boy, that's a lot to pack in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This was somebody that was busy on all of those things, presumably every day of his life, and enjoyed it. I mean, you always had a sense that Don was really just kind of thrilled with being in this profession and doing all the things that he did. And because we had similar career paths, Don and I would sometimes talk about this and say, and felt how blessed we both were to have found a second career, and one that we were able, still young enough to be able to have a lot of years at it. And to feel that you're pretty good at this, you know, that Don was very good at it, and to feel so fulfilled in a second career where you go, this is really what I would do if I didn't get paid anything for it. I mean, this is just what I prefer to do. And just like Don, we shared a common DNA, in that when he was semi-retired, and just as I am, we still turn on the computers and still write articles and still do research. There's no academic points for it. There's nothing. There's no material benefit. It's what we do and feel we need to do to advance the discipline that we're working in. And Don was certainly one of those, and unusual.
Well, Chuck, I mean, we're both lucky to know him, and I've been lucky to come to know you. So thank you, and thank you for your contributions. This has been just great.